Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Chapter 2 Dobby's Warning. Harry controlled now not to shout out, but it was a near thing. The little creature on the mattress had large, bat-like ears and bulging green eyes. The size of tennis balls. Harry knew right away that this became what had been watching him out of the garden hedge that morning. As they stared at each other, Harry heard Dudley's voice from the corridor. "Might also I take your coats, Mr. and Mrs. Mason?" The creature slipped off the bed and bowed so low that the cease of its lengthy, thin nose touched the carpet. Harry noticed that it became sporting what appeared like an vintage pillowcase, with rips for arm and leg holes. Hey," said Harry nervously. "Harry Potter," said the creature in a high-pitched voice Harry turned into positive could carry down the steps. "See you later. Has Dobby desired to meet you, sir?" "Such an honor, it's far." Thanks," stated Harry, edging along the wall and sinking into his table chair, next to Hedwig, who was asleep in her big cage. He desired to ask, "What are you?" However, concept it'd sound too rude, so as an alternative he stated, "Who are you?" "Dobby, sir." "Just Dobby." "Dobby, the residence elf," stated the creature. "Oh, actually," stated Harry. I don't want to be rude or something, however, this isn't a notable time for me to have a residence elf in my bedroom." Aunt Petunia's high, false chuckle sounded from the residing room. The elf hung his head. "Now not that I'm now not pleased to meet you," stated Harry quickly, "however, is there any specific purpose you're here?" "Oh, yes, sir," stated Dobby earnestly. "Dobby has come to tell you, sir, it's far difficult, sir." Dobby wonders where to start. "Sit down," said Harry politely, pointing on the mattress. To his horror, the elf burst into tears, very noisy tears. Take a seat down," he wailed. "In no way, by no means ever." Harry idea, he heard the voices downstairs falter. "I'm sorry," he whispered, "I didn't suggest to offend you, or whatever." "Offend Dobby," choked the elf. "Dobby has never been requested to sit down by way of a wizard, like and same." Harry, trying to mention shoo, and look comforting at the identical time, ushered Dobby back onto the bed where he sat hiccuping, searching like a huge and really unsightly doll. At closing, he managed to control himself, and Saturday together with his brilliant eyes constant on Harry in an expression of watery adoration. "You can't have met many respectable wizards," stated Harry, looking to cheer him up. Dobby shook his head. Then, without caution, he leapt up and started banging his head furiously on the window, shouting, "Bad Dobby! Awful! Dobby! Don't, what are you doing?" Harry hissed, springing up and pulling Dobby lower back onto the bed. Hedwig had woken up with a particularly loud screech and changed into beating her wings wildly towards the bars of her cage. "Dobby needed to punish himself, sir," said the elf, who had long passed barely pacified. "Dobby nearly spoke unwell of his own family, sir." "Your circle of relatives?" "The wizard family Dobby serves, sir." "Dobby is a house elf, bound to serve one residence and one family for all time." "Do they know you're right here?" requested Harry apparently. Dobby shuddered. "Oh, no, sir, no. Dobby will ought to punish himself maximum grievously for coming to look you, sir. Dobby will need to close his ears inside the oven door for this. In the event that they ever knew, sir. But receipts they notice in case you shut your ears within the oven door?" "Dobby doubts it, sir. Dobby is continually having to punish himself for something, sir. They wicked Dobby get on with it, sir. Every now and then they strikes a chord in my memory to do greater punishments." "But why don't you leave? Escape? A house elf must be set free, sir. And the own family will in no way," said Dobby. Unfastened. Dobby will serve the family until he dies, sir. Harry stared. And I had it bad staying here for another 4 weeks, he said. This makes the Dursleys sound nearly human. Can't absolutely everyone help? You? Can't I? Nearly right now, Harry needed he hadn't spoken. Dobby dissolved again into wails of gratitude. Please, Harry whispered frantically, please be quiet. If the Dursleys listen something, if they recognize you're right here. Harry Potter asks if he can assist Dobby. Dobby has heard of your greatness, sir, but of your goodness, Dobby in no way knew. Harry, who was feeling fairly hot inside the face, stated, something you've heard about my greatness is a load of rubbish. I'm not even pinnacle of my year at Hogwarts, that's Hermione, she. But he stopped quickly, because thinking about Hermione became painful. Harry Potter is humble and modest, stated Dobby reverently, his orb-like eyes aglow. Harry Potter speaks now not of his overcome he who must not be named. Voldemort, stated Harry. Dobby clapped his palms over his bad ears and moaned, ah, speak now not the call, sir. Speak now not the name. Sorry, said Harry quick. I know plenty of human beings don't find it irresistible. My pal Ron. He stopped once more. Considering Ron turned into painful, too. Dobby leaned closer to Harry, his eyes wide as headlights. Dobby heard in form, he said hoarsely, that Harry Potter met the dark Lord for a second time, simply weeks in the past, that Harry Potter escaped yet again. Harry nodded and Dobby's eyes all at once shone with tears. Ah, sir, he gasped, dabbing his face with a corner of the grubby pillowcase he was wearing. Harry Potter is valiant and ambitious. He has braved so many risks already. But Dobby has come to defend Harry Potter, to warn him even though he does ought to shut his ears inside the oven door. Later. Harry Potter should no longer go lower back to Hogwarts. There was a silence broken simplest by using the chink of knives and forks from downstairs and the distant rumble of Uncle Vernon's voice. What? Harry stammered. However, I've got to move lower back, time period starts on September 1st. It's all that's keeping me going. You don't understand what it's like here. I don't belong right here. I belong in your international, at Hogwarts. No, 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 squeaked Dobby, shaking his head so hard his ears flapped. Harry Potter ought to stay wherein he is secure. He is too high quality, too precise, to lose. If Harry Potter goes back to Hogwarts, he will be immortal. Hazard. Why, stated Harry in wonder. There's a plot, Harry Potter. A plot to make maximum terrible matters happen at Hogwarts College of Witchcraft and Wizardry this year. Whispered Dobby, all of a sudden trembling all over. Dobby has regarded it for months, sir. Harry Potter need to now not placed himself at risk. He is too critical, sir. What terrible matters, stated Harry without delay. Who's plotting them? Dobby made a humorous choking noise and then banged his head frantically towards the wall. All right, cried Harry, grabbing the elf's arm to stop him. You mate. Inform me. I recognize. However, why are you caution me? A surprising, ugly idea struck him. Hold on, this hasn't were given whatever to do with Vol, sorry, with you recognize who, has it? You could simply shake or nod, he brought unexpectedly as Dobby's head tilted worryingly close to the wall again. Slowly, Dobby shook his head. Not he who have to no longer be named, sir. But Dobby's eyes were wide and he seemed to be seeking to provide Harry a trace. Harry, however, was completely misplaced. He hasn't were given a brother, has he? Dobby shook his head, his eyes wider than ever. Nicely then, I will think who else could have a chance of creating. Terrible matters occur at Hogwarts, said Harry. I suggest, there's Dumbledore, for one factor. You understand who Dumbledore is, don't you? Dobby bowed his head. Albus Dumbledore is the finest headmaster Hogwarts has ever had. Dobby is aware of it, sir. Dobby has heard Dumbledore's powers rival those of he who must not be named at the peak of his strength. However, sir, Dobby's voice dropped to an impressing whisper, there are powers. Dumbledore doesn't, powers no decent wizard. And earlier than Harry ought to stop him, Dobby bounded out of bed, seized Harry's desk lamp, and started beating himself round the top with ear-splitting yelps. An unexpected silence fell downstairs. Seconds later Harry, coronary heart thudding madly, heard Uncle Vernon coming into the corridor, calling, Dudley. Must have left his television on once more, the little tyke. Brief. In the closet, hissed Harry, stuffing Dobby in, shutting the door, and flinging himself onto the mattress simply as the door manage became. What the Satan are you doing? Said Uncle Vernon. Through gritted enamel, his face horribly near Harry's. You've simply ruined the punchline of my Japanese golfer joke. One greater sound and you'll desire you'd by no means been born, boy. He stomped flat-footed from the room. Shaking, Harry permit Dobby out of the closet. See what it's like here, he said. See why I've got to move lower back to Hogwarts? It's the simplest place I've got, nicely, I assume I've got friends. Pals who don't even write to Harry Potter, stated Dobby, slyly. I anticipate they've simply been, wait a minute, said Harry, frowning. How do you already know my pals haven't been writing to me? Dobby shuffled his foot. Harry Potter mustn't be indignant with Dobby. Dobby did it for the first rate. Have you ever been preventing my letters? Dobby has them right here, sir, said the elf. Stepping nimbly out of Harry's attain, he pulled a thick wad of envelopes from the interior of the pillowcase. He became wearing. Harry may want to make out Hermione's neat writing, Ron's untidy scrawl, or even a scribble that seemed as even though it turned into from the Hogwarts gamekeeper, Hagrid. Dobby blinked anxiously up at Harry. Harry Potter mustn't be indignant. Dobby hoped, if Harry Potter thought his pals had forgotten him. Harry Potter won't want to move again to high school, sir. Harry wasn't listening. He made a grab for the letters, however Dobby jumped out of reach. Harry Potter may have them, sir, if he offers Dobby his word that he will now not return to Hogwarts. Ah, sir, this is a hazard you must not face. Say you won't cross back, sir. No, said Harry angrily. Supply me my friend's letters. Then Harry Potter leaves Dobby no preference, stated the elf sadly. Earlier than Harry ought to move, Dobby had darted to the bedroom door, pulled it open, and sprinted down the steps. Mouth dry, belly lurching, Harry sprang after him, attempting now not to make a sound. He jumped the final 6 steps, touchdown cat-like at the hall carpet, searching around for Dobby. From the dining room he heard Uncle Vernon saying, Tell Petunia that very funny tale about the ones American plumbers, Mr. Mason. She's been loss of life, to pay attention. Harry ran up the hall into the kitchen and felt his stomach disappear. Aunt Petunia's masterpiece of a pudding, the mountain of cream and sugared violets, become floating up near the ceiling. On top of a cabinet in the nook crouched Dobby. No, croaked Harry. Please, they'll kill me. Harry Potter should say he's now not going lower back to high school. Dobby, please. Say it, sir. I can't. Dobby gave him a tragic look. Then Dobby ought to do it, sir, for Harry Potter's very own proper. The pudding fell to the floor with a heart-stopping crash. Cream splattered the windows and partitions because the dish shattered. With a crack like a whip, Dobby vanished. There have been screams from the eating room and Uncle Vernon burst into the kitchen to locate Harry, inflexible with shock, included from head to foot in Aunt Petunia's pudding. At first, it appeared as though Uncle Vernon would manipulate to gloss the entire element over. Just our nephew, very disturbed, meeting strangers upsets him, so we stored him upstairs. He shooed the bowled-over Masons returned into the eating room, promised Harry he could flay him to within an inch of his lifestyles when the Masons had left, and surpassed him. A mop. Aunt Petunia dug some ice cream out of the freezer and Harry, nonetheless shaking, started out scrubbing the kitchen easy. Uncle Vernon would possibly nonetheless have been capable of make his deal, if it hadn't been for the owl. Aunt Petunia turned into just passing around a field of after-dinner mints, whilst a large barn owl swooped through the dining room window, dropped a letter on Mrs. Mason's head, and swooped out again. Mrs. Mason screamed like a banshee and ran from the residence shouting about lunatics. Mr. Mason stayed just long sufficient to inform the Dursleys that his wife turned into mortally terrified of birds of all shapes and sizes, and to invite whether or not this become their concept of a shaggy dog story. Harry stood inside the kitchen, clutching the mop for aid, as Uncle Vernon's superior on him, a demonic glint in his tiny eyes. "Examine it," he hissed evilly, brandishing the letter the owl had introduced. "Cross on, read it." Harry took it. It did now not incorporate birthday greetings. "Dear Mr. Potter, we've got obtained intelligence that a hover charm was used at your area of house this evening at 12 minutes past 9. As you know, underage wizards are not authorized to carry out spells. Outdoor faculty, and further spell work to your component may result in expulsion from said faculty. Decree for the affordable limit of underage sorcery, 1875, paragraph C. We'd additionally ask you to remember the fact that any magical hobby that dangers notice via individuals of the non-magical community, muggles, is a serious offense below Segment 13 of the International Confederation of Warlocks Statute of Secrecy. Enjoy your holidays. Yours actually, Mafalda Hopkirk. Wrong use of magic workplace. Ministry of Magic. Harry looked up from the letter and gulped. "You didn't inform us you weren't allowed to use magic outside school," said Uncle Vernon, a mad gleam dancing in his eyes. "Forgot to say it. Slipped your thoughts, I dare say." He became bearing down on Harry like a wonderful bulldog, all his enamel bared. "Well, I've were given information for you, boy. I'm locking you up. You're in no way going back to that college, never, and if you attempt to magic yourself out, they'll expel you." And laughing like a maniac, he dragged Harry back upstairs. Uncle Vernon became as terrible as his word. The subsequent morning, he paid a man to healthy bars on Harry's window. He himself fitted a cat flap within the bedroom door, in order that small quantities of meals could be driven inside 3 instances an afternoon. They let Harry out to use the restroom morning and evening. In any other case, he changed into locked in his room across the clock. 3 days later, the Dursleys have been displaying no sign of relenting, and Harry couldn't see any way out of his situation. He lay on his mattress, looking the solar sinking at the back of the bars at the window and puzzled miserably what become going to show up to him. What changed into the coolest of magicking himself out of his room if Hogwarts would expel him for doing it? Yet existence at Privet Power had reached an all-time low. Now that the Dursleys knew they weren't going to awaken as fruit bats, he had lost his handiest weapon. Dobby would possibly have stored Harry from horrible happenings at Hogwarts. However the way matters were going, he'd in all likelihood starve to demise anyway. The cat flap rattled and Aunt Petunia's hand seemed pushing a bowl of canned soup into the room. Harry, whose insides were aching with starvation, jumped off his bed and seized it. The soup became stone bloodless, however he drank half of it in one gulp. Then he crossed the room to Hedwig's cage and tipped the soggy veggies at the bottom of the bowl into her empty food tray. She ruffled her feathers and gave him a look of deep disgust. "It's no right turning your beak up at it, that's all we've got," said Harry grimly. He positioned the empty bowl lower back at the floor next to the cat flap and lay go into reverse on the bed, in some way even hungrier than he were earlier than the soup. Supposing he changed into still alive in every other 4 weeks, what would happen? If he didn't flip up at Hogwarts? Could someone be dispatched to see why he hadn't come again? Could they be capable of make the Dursleys permit him pass? The room turned into growing darkish. Exhausted, stomach rumbling, mind spinning over the equal unanswerable questions, Harry fell into an uneasy sleep. He dreamed that he became on show in a zoo, with a card-reading underage wizard connected to his cage. Human beings goggled through the bars at him as he lay, ravenous and susceptible, on a mattress of straw. He saw Dobby's face inside the crowd and shouted out, requesting assist, however Dobby referred to as Harry Potter is secure there, sir, and vanished. Then the Dursleys appeared and Dudley rattled the bars of the cage, giggling at him. "Forestall it," Harry muttered, because the rattling pounded in his sore head. "Leave me by myself, reduce it out. I'm seeking to sleep." He opened his eyes. Moonlight was shining through the bars on the window. And a person turned into goggling via the bars at him, a freckle-faced, crimson-haired, lengthy-nosed someone. Ron Weasley turned into outdoor Harry's window.